Hey everyone, welcome back to Homegrown Passion. Today's video we're going to talk about microgreens. I've been growing them for years, started out growing them in 10-20 trays on the windowsill, and then I decided maybe I should grow some for profit. So that's how I got started in hydroponics. And I had that going before I had my big greenhouse, so you don't need a huge greenhouse to start out to be successful growing microgreens. There's a couple different ways, as I mentioned, the 10-20 trays and NFT channels, the nutrient film technique. So I'm going to go over the different growing mediums we can use and what works really well. So stay tuned. There's always been confusion about sprouts and microgreens, and they're two totally different produce products. Sprouts are seeds that are just grown for 3 to 4 days without sunlight before the true leaves come on, and that's when you eat them. Microgreens are grown in sunlight, and they're the leaves of edible plants, and they grow anywhere between 7 and 21 days, and you harvest them at about 1 inch to 3 inches tall, and they're so packed with nutrients. So there's a big difference between sprouts and microgreens. So let's talk about the nutritional value of microgreens. I read somewhere that a microgreen has 4 to 40% more vitamins and minerals than full-grown plants. So that's a lot of oomph in that little tiny package. And the health benefits, I read it could help alleviate type 2 diabetes, helps with heart disease, helps with reasoning and thinking, brain health. It helps with your skin. There's so many benefits to microgreens. It also has cancer protection and vision protection. So you can't beat, putting microgreens in the daily routine. The best way to incorporate microgreens into your diet is put them on salads. That's the best way I like them, because I always like everything raw. But another way is to put on top of sandwiches, hamburgers or an egg sandwich. And you can incorporate them into pesto or smoothies. And of course, they're beautiful as a garnish on top of pizza or on soup or in pasta dishes. There are quite a few different growing mediums you could use to start microgreens. Currently, I use 2 here in the greenhouse. I tried burlap, and I didn't like that. It smelled really bad. First one I'm going to show you is jute. And it's wide enough to fit in 10-20 trays and my wide nursery trays in the NFT system. So you can cut it to length for the 10-20s or the nursery channel, and it works out really well. So before you seed your microgreens, you're going to want to make sure your growing medium is totally saturated. When I first tried the jute, I would roll it out into the channels and try to put water on top. Well, it never got absorbed in unless I patted it down. So I found that if I put it into a bucket that has my nutrient water, because it's already pH adjusted and has all the nutrients that it needs, and I found out it works really good. Put the jute in there, squeeze it, and get as much water as I can into the medium. Then I can pick it up, put it in my channel, roll it out, and it's ready for seeding. So I learned the hard way of how to get the water to your NFT channels for your microgreens. First time I seeded, everything looked beautiful. I went to put my spaghetti tube up there, put it on full blast, all the seeds got washed down the channel. So I found that we should put an emitter on, and these emitters are 0.5 gallons per hour. They're the ones that are mostly used in commercial greenhouses, and they work really well. They do get clogged up every once in a while, so you do have to watch them. But just put them on the end of my spaghetti tube, take one of my little clips, clip them onto the end of the channel and let it drip. And since this is such a wide channel, I'm going to put 2 on. If I use my regular smaller channels, I just put 1 emitter on, and it works really well throughout the whole growing time of the microgreens. Now, since my spaghetti tubes have the emitters on, I can't put them through the holes that are here in the nursery NFT channel. So paper clips work really well. All I do is put it down to the end, then I can adjust where I want the water flow to go. And like I said, on the bigger channels, I put 2 in. And now I'm ready to seed. So I'm seeding the microgreens in this tray for my farm market that I have in 8 days, because I know this time of year they grow really fast. And I'm doing 2 varieties that will be ready at the same time. I have pea shoots and broccoli. First, I'm going to do the pea shoots, which are really easy to seed because they're nice and big. So I just do it by hand. I just sprinkle them out onto the growing medium. You kind of don't want them really close together, but you don't want them really far apart because you don't want to waste spaces. So I always try to make sure I get them up against the edges. So I'll go through and get half this tray done, and then I'll show you how I do the broccoli seeds. Now in the other half of the tray, I'm going to seed broccoli. It's one of our family's favorite, and it's done totally different than the peas because the seeds are very small. So I use my seeder that I use when I do the Oasis cube, and I just kind of sprinkle them onto the growing medium. And again, you want to make sure you get the sides covered. Then after I get this seeded, there's one more step to get them to germinate. Let me show you one thing really quick before I cover up the seeds, is how they all stayed in place. And that's because I put the emitter on. Like I said, if I would have put the regular spaghetti tube, half these seeds would have been down in the drain. So the reason you want to cover up your plants, not only for good germination, you want to keep the algae off of the growing medium and of your seeds, because that's one of the hardest things with microgreens, to get them to grow. If they get a lot of algae on them, you don't have a really good harvest. So I use my 10-20 trays so they fit perfectly over, and I'll check them daily. I'm going to have to check both sections because they are two different types of seeds, and once they have a good germination, I go ahead and take them off and let them grow in the sunshine. One more thing about algae. A lot of people say, oh, it's no big deal in the greenhouse. It is a big deal because the algae takes oxygen and nutrients out of the nutrient water that should go to your plants, but instead it goes to algae, and it starts growing and blooming, and then you get this big bloom, and then you end up with fungus gnats, and then you get root larvae, and you just have all kinds of problems. Clogs up your emitter lines, just overtakes the plants, and they don't grow really well. So do everything you can to alleviate having algae in any of your channels. Now that we have the wide channels covered up with the 10-20 trays, let's go to the other side of the greenhouse, and I'll show you what I do with my 3.5 NFT channels. Here's the 3.5-inch Biostrate I'm going to use in the channels on this side of the greenhouse. Here's the other growing medium I was telling you about that I use, and I use this in my 3.5-inch trays because it's cut exactly for that. It's a biopolymer with natural fibers, and it works really well. Like the jute, you just roll it out. Hopefully it doesn't fall off the channel. And I cut it to length, and then I saturate it. So let me get this in place, and I'll show you how I do that. Now I need to saturate the Biostrate. So I just turn on my nutrient water, and I like to use my nutrient water because it's pH adjusted, and it doesn't have the chlorine, because we have city water here, and you don't want chlorine on your seeds because it really inhibits their growth. They don't have a good start to life, and if you can give them a good start, you're going to end up with a really good product. So I'll let this sit for a second as the excess water drains off, and then we'll start seeding. If you're wondering what this is, go back a couple videos and you'll see where I put some ginger into my deep barrel hydroponics, and it's going crazy. It really likes it here in the greenhouse. And again, you want to use a 0.5 gallon emitter on your channel, and like I said, I only put one on these smaller channels because that's all it needs. So let's get ready to seed, and I am going to do radishes, which is another family favorite and a really big sell at the farm market. Use my seeder, and here, since it is the little channel, I can pull it out and go ahead and seed it. These are a little bit bigger seed than the broccoli, but it's still easier to do it with this green seeder. So I'm going to finish seeding the tray with the microgreen radish, and then I'll put the covers on it. Trays are all planted. Now it's time to put the emitter in. Same concept as the other side. Take my paper clip, clip it to the end of the channel, nice and dripping, and then cover them up. Even though these aren't solid covers, it still works wonderful. There we go. Keeps the algae out and gives them time to germinate. When I harvest microgreens for the farm market, I put 2 to 3 ounces in a bag. Some people use crispers, and the customers seem really happy with that. Now if I'm doing pea shoots or sunflower shoots, I do put a little bit more because there's a lot of stem in there. So I maybe put 4 or 5 ounces, and like I said, I haven't had any complaints and the customers are very happy with the product. Well, for dinner tonight, I need a little bit of basil. So I have my Thai basil microgreens growing here. So I'm going to take the emitter off for a second, because I'm only going to harvest a little bit just for me for tonight. And I like to pull the channel over my bin that I harvest it into. And I have really nice stainless steel scissors, kitchen scissors. And I just take a handful and you just go in there and cut it right off. And the reason I like to put the bin underneath is you don't lose any of the product. Oh, it smells amazing. Can't wait for dinner tonight. So that's all I'm going to do. So I'll put the channel back in place and put the emitter on, and it'll keep going for another couple weeks. I have my Thai basil cut for my dish tonight. I think I'm going to put a little Genovese basil, some sweet basil in it. Bet you that'll give it a really good flavor. It's amazing how different the two basils smell. I've made a few videos in the past about growing microgreens. I'm going to put the links down below so you guys can check them out. And if you're really interested in that, definitely check them out. Because I know people that sell microgreens at farm markets, they make $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a year. And it's a really easy way to get into hydroponics. So I hope you guys liked today's video. And like always, please leave me any questions, comments, and suggestions down below. And we'll see you next video. Hey guys, if you're interested in learning about hydroponics and you're anywhere near Oklahoma, Crop King is going to have grower school at a big greenhouse out that way. So if you're interested, I'm going to put the information down below. It's the beginning of August and I know you'll learn a lot.